Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on March 11th, 2022 at approximately 8:17 a.m. PST. Life does look like it's slowly getting back together as far as society on the whole goes. In my case, I'll tell you, losing my brother hit me a lot harder than I thought it would. It didn't exactly put me into any sort of depression, but I certainly lost focus of what I was up to for the most part. However, this being said, time to get back to work. Now, I returned to this world, to this lifetime, for one primary purpose, and that is to pass on a very special message, a very simple message to everybody in existence. That message is that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, we've gone through a lot of trials and tribulations over the last couple of years. Okay, there's been a lot of lines drawn, a lot of lines crossed, in all fairness. But we can't do anything about the past. Okay, what we've gone through is what makes us what we are today. And in all fairness, there isn't a person in existence that is any different than any one of you. Meaning every one of you is worth exactly the same amount, spiritually speaking. Financially, that's another issue altogether. Okay, we were all given freedom of choice, free will. However, this does not mean you have freedom from your actions. Okay, freedom from consequence. What you do will come back to deal with you. Okay, hence the karmic law, energy out, energy in. What you put out is what you're going to end up dealing with. Okay, that's what's going to come back. Now, there's only three laws I follow. Okay, and these are the same three laws that I promote. Compare your laws, whatever they are, spiritual, support group, legal, doesn't matter, or parental. Which, by the way, parental is a support group. Okay, but take a look at the laws you follow and compare them to these three. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Okay, now if you find a law that you're following that doesn't fit one of those three, let me know. Please, in the comments below, absolutely let me know. And with that in mind, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel because there's a lot of information coming out. Some of it is very conflicted to what you may have heard. Okay, but, one message was given to me very clearly on my brother's passing a week ago there. And that was very simple. Today is the only day you've got. Do not put things off. Now, being a professional procrastinator, I did not take the time to spend extra time with my parents before they went, nor with my eldest brother before he went. Now, the one that passed 10 years ago, I spent as much time as I could, but there came a point where he was in a coma and completely unresponsive to anything. He wasn't on life support, but he refused to die. Seems to be one of the things our family has in common. Okay, as far as I recall, this passing when my eldest brother just passed, that was his third time crossing over. He's been dead. He was dead twice before that. Okay. So I mean, it seems to run in our family. Okay, at least with 5 out of 8 of us. I don't know about the other two. Okay, but 5 out of 8 of us have done it more often than we care to count, and 4 of them are now permanently dead for this lifetime. With this in mind, if you've been putting things off, whether it's talking to your boss because you desire a change in your career, talking to your other half because things aren't going as well as you'd like, okay, talk to your kids because they're not following. Well, that came out of nowhere. Talking to your kids because they're not following what you figure is an appropriate path. Okay, do not put it off. Do not condemn people for what they've done. They're only doing the best they can with what they've got. And in most cases, yourself included, you literally haven't been taught any better. Okay. Now, I'm no different. I'm no different in that respect. I was taught as well. I just happen to have discarded a lot of it, which is why, I take a look at the political system, the spiritual system, the educational system, and the societal system in all fairness. And I go, okay, it's been sidetracked. I cannot do a thing, and neither can anybody else. You cannot do a thing about what's happened. But what we can do is start working towards putting things back in place. Eliminating the things in your life you're not content with. So what I'm doing here is, as soon as I'm done this video, I will be turning around, and much as I've been up for a number of hours, I will be starting by clearing my office desk off completely, and then starting to remove the stuff that I have to, get the papers filed and what have you. Where it comes to your home, the backbone of the home is your living room. Okay, quite literally, that's the backbone. Most people have ignored it. It used to be called the sitting room. Okay, most people don't pay attention to it anymore. And it's very important we bring the family unit back together. But before we get to the family unit, take a look in your own heart. Take a look at what you're feeling. Okay, take everybody out of the equation and ask yourself one simple question. Am I content? Okay, if the answer is yes, then great. If the answer is no, keep one thing in mind here. There's a little sign, and I doubt you can read it because I can't. Although that doesn't matter much. This wood sign up here. Okay, that says, I am worth it. The four most powerful words in the spoken language, in any language that I've come across, where it comes to rebuilding self-esteem, rebuilding self-motivation, self-worth, all of this fits into those four words. Okay. Apparently I'm tired, in case you couldn't tell. But this is a live recording. So I don't go back and edit any of this out. Okay. I simply go back, double check, make sure I got the date right, and then post it as is. This is one of the side effects that I was not expecting with my brother passing, was I don't sleep well at all. Okay, I'll get back to it. But you take a look at yourself first. Okay, ask yourself, are you content? If you're not content with anything, okay, start making adjustments to it. Eliminate the parts of it that you're not content with. Okay, in my case, I'm not content with the state of my office right now, so as soon as I'm done this video, I will be dealing with that. Now, of course, I do have another project I've got to do sometime this morning, as soon as I can, sort of thing, and that's dealing with horoscopes. So I will get those recorded as soon as the opportunity presents itself, but I'll start with the office. Once you've got to look at yourself and you say, okay, I'm not content with whatever. Pick 3 things. Okay, keep them to 15-minute to half-hour projects if at all possible, and start working on them. When you get one checked off, add an extra one add a third one to the bottom. Now remember, when I'm talking about projects, this has got to include things like, are you getting breakfast? Have you had lunch? This sort of thing. Okay, and yes, you do have to have time to sit down. And you don't have to schedule it. It's not a question of this time we've got to do this, unless you have to be working a business, at which point you may have to have your schedules in order. But once you get that sorted, next step, we deal with the home. Now, the backbone, like I said, of the home is the living room. But the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen are all interconnected. Okay, that's where the backbone is. That's where family, and when I talk about family, I'm talking about the people living in the same house. That's where you meet. Okay. Pick one meal of the day. Doesn't matter which. Okay. But pick one meal of the day where you sit down at the table, turn all of your electronics off, and talk to each other. I do mean all of your electronics. Okay. It won't hurt for an hour to leave them all alone. You can get back to people if they phone or if they text. But what you can't get back to is the time you're missing. Okay. Take that time to reconnect with the family, because I will tell you, when they pass, sometimes unexpectedly, there is no going back to sort it out. You don't have the option of spending more time with them before they die, once they die. Okay, so pick that one meal. Now understand, the meal boils down to get the meal finished, they clean up from it. This is all time to spend as a family. Okay, the electronics in the house. My brother was into electronics. He programmed, like he thought as a program as a computer in a lot of ways. Okay, and even he took time away from the computer. It is time starting immediately. Okay, to put the electronics down for at least one meal, and that means the eating of the meal and the cleaning up from it. Understand, whoever's making the meal, if you're an only person, sorry, you get to make and clean up. But where it comes to family, okay, I know when I was growing up, many of you probably had the same thing. Whoever cooked the meal got to sit out from cleaning it up. Needless to say, considering I'm not what you would call a qualified cook. Not really. I may cook well enough to make sure I don't die, but I did a lot in the way of dishes. Because you didn't want me cooking. Well, they didn't want me cooking, and I didn't want to cook, so that worked out well. Take that hour. It won't kill you, but it may save your home. Okay. Now, that being said, the backbone of the house, what keeps the roof over your head, what keeps the power on, is your finances. Okay, so make sure once you've got the first step done, now you focus on the finances. Make sure that wherever you're working on your finances, that it's clear enough to think, because the clearer it is, the clearer your head will be. You don't have to take my word for this. As a matter of fact, I recommend you don't take my word for it. Okay, these are the methods I use, and they work for me. If you haven't got a method worked out, or if the method you're using isn't working well, okay, then it may be wise to take a look at these options. Okay, you clear the office out wherever you work on your finances. Okay, and do I have it here? Don't see it right offhand. That's one of the reasons why I got to clear this out. Where it comes to household income, figure out what your baseline, what your bottom line is to cover rent, utilities, some savings, a little bit of entertainment, your groceries, transportation, insurance. I probably missed a couple of things, but cover all of that in one lump sum. Okay. Now for me, that is $2,500. Okay. I don't know what it'll be for you. That's for you to figure out. But what is pertinent is take a sheet of paper and on it, literally write down, I have, regarding your household, we have legally acquired a minimum of $2,500 by midnight on March 31st, 2022, and by 1 minute to midnight. Now, this doesn't change much. It actually alters the energy and makes it easier because it draws it out of the etheric plane into the material world where it can be made manifest. Then pay attention to where it's going. Now, I can go into more detail on this at some point. Or if you've got definitive questions, absolutely drop me a line. I'll do what I can. Okay. Now, that said, once you've got your finances in order, you'll find the rest of your house actually works reasonably well. Odd question for you. When was the last time you bought something for you? Not because you had to, and not because you needed it, but because you desired it. Okay. For me, it's been about 15 years. Okay. And I finally went out and literally, as I mentioned before, I play Dungeons and Dragons. I do a whole pile of writing. Okay. Well, I finally went out and I splurged on something I haven't done I've not bought this sort of thing in years. Yes, I bought little figures that I paint. Okay, but the little figures that I paint, I bought them over time. Right. And they cost anywhere from $6 to $20. Right, but I've always had to work within a limited budget. This is the first time just about a week ago now, I went and splurged and bought myself a computer for one reason. Simply for gaming. That's it. Simply for playing Dungeons and Dragons. It simply replaces it replaces the, try that again. It replaces the notebook I was using. Needless to say, I won't go through as much paper. But with that in mind, if you haven't bought something for yourself, in a long time, do so. Effective immediately on your payday. Take 1% before you pay your bills, if at all possible. Now, bear in mind, do not, the bills that have to be paid before you even worry about you, in all fairness, is, you really want to make sure you've got your rent. Do not sell yourself short to get a little bit of a bonus for you. But what I do right off the bat, because I know what my income looks like, is I take 1% off of whatever check comes in. That 1% goes into my pocket. That is spending money. That's mad money. That's what I use for going for coffee, that sort of thing. You take 1% off the top. Put that in your pocket. And the reason for that is it changes the energy from I'm working to pay my bills to I'm working and paying my bills. Very important to get that one straight. Now, if you've got a partner, or if like me, you're a single parent, take that same amount of money and effective on your next paycheck. Now most people's paychecks are coming up within the next, many people get paid at the middle of the month. But with your next paycheck, take 1% off the top, put it in your pocket for spending money, put 1% into your partner's, or if you've got a child living at home, if you've got children living at home, 1% into their pocket, for spending money. Now, the reason for that is you got to start somewhere in teaching your kids how money works. I was raised to believe never show your kids what's going on with the family finances. I'll tell you, looking back on it, if mom and dad had actually shown me that in detail, I may not have gotten into the mess I did. However, better late than never. So starting effective right now, if you haven't been bringing your kids up to speed, you're under a lot of stress as parents. And this neat little idea that many people have, well, I don't want to stress my kids out by having them worry about money. If you're working together, the money will not actually become as much of a worry. I found this out myself when I kept my own kids in the queue as far as what was going on. I tell them we can't afford it. They know why we can't afford it, and there was less flack about it. There was less stress of, oh, I really want this, Dad. I mean, one case in particular, I walked into a electronics store, right? And my son at the time, my eldest son was just a couple of years old. He was about 5 years old, I guess. And he looks at me, and he looks at this great big TV, and he goes, Dad, when we can afford it, can we buy one of those? And I looked at him and I said, when we can afford it, certainly. Well, I looked at it this way. My son qualified it as when we can afford it. He told me what he desired to have. But there was another adult there with a little kid, with a daughter about the same age. And he immediately turned on me and goes, how can you let your kids dream like that? I looked at him and I said, how can you not? He said, well, you can't let him talk about things like that. I said, he qualified it as when we can afford it. Because I keep my kids up to speed on what finances look like. Teach your kids how finances work, because the reality is they're not being taught in school. And it's one of those jobs, as you well know, it's one of those chores that if you don't stay on top of it all the time, it'll get away from you. But bringing your kids in on speed, it's not the most exciting task to do with your kids, but it is one of the most necessary. It's kind of like teaching your kids to cook. For pity's sakes, if you can't cook well, do what you can. I don't cook well, but I cook well enough to keep my kid healthy, as evidenced by the fact that he's had one bout of bronchitis in 2 years, and other than that, he's been perfectly healthy. Okay, so you spend the time with the family. Many of the tasks that you've got to do are boring as all get out. Okay, but even the youngest kids, well, I shouldn't say the youngest, you get to 3 or 4 years old, you can still get children to help with household chores. Okay, now they may not like it much, but do you like picking up after them all the time? Do you desire them to be, shall we say, incapable of handling their own necessities? Probably not. But this is why you focus on the home. Build that home unit. Get that communication line back up. And for pity's sakes, take responsibility for your own actions and your own words. You know, we only have so much time on this planet. And there's no way you can gauge, no functional way to gauge, oh, I'm going to live X number of years. You can do a fair chunk towards making it work. But here's the thing. No matter who you are, no matter how much money you've got, you're going to pass away. It's just that simple. You're going to. So, with that in mind, okay, very necessary to realize that when you're dealing with that, okay, it's not about how you die. It's not about what you leave behind. Okay, it's about how you live. Now, for me personally, yes, I want to help my kids out, absolutely. But the reality of it is, I would rather help them out while they are young and while they're still able to appreciate it than go, okay, I died, but you suffered all your life, but I left $500,000 for each of you. Okay, that $500,000 I can pretty much guarantee is going to be much more appreciated, much more enjoyed if they're alive to see it. If you're alive to watch them deal with it. And again, this is things that we all have in common. Never mind your skin color, your orientation, who you vote for, what money you've got. You're all in the same boat. Every one of you, at some point, is going to die. Sometimes we die more often than others, but, you get used to that sort of thing. But it's time to focus on the home. The reality is, by all of us focusing on our own homes, okay, on the feeling around our own house, it will change the atmosphere. Picture what would happen if you live in an apartment block and everybody in your apartment is getting along with their own homes. Picture the change in the feel of the energy in that house. Okay, you know yourself in your own home. If everybody's getting along, you're all a lot more relaxed, you sleep better, you have a much more enjoyable time. If any pair of you, if any two people in that same house are fighting, okay, then you have a major complication. And the problem with leaving a conflict sit, and not doing anything about it, as soon as you know about it, bring it to the other person's attention. Okay, this does not mean beat them until they agree with you. This means go, this is where the problem is. I'm seeing this problem, whether you are or not, is not the issue. This is what I'm seeing. So, how do we work through it? Okay. And you'll likely get comments like, well, I don't see that as a problem. You don't have to. The problem that children going to school have is absolutely astronomical for them. Okay. It's absolutely horrendous. They're trying to piece it together. So with that in mind, okay, take the time to take the time to listen to your kids, to listen to your partner, and for that matter, if you happen to be a boss, if you happen to own a company, listen to your employees. Okay, it's time to start communicating. As my father used to say, God granted you with 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Okay, it's not a question of you always having your last word. Many times the strongest word ever said is the one that was never uttered. Okay. But this is a question of starting over and getting life moving in the right direction. Doesn't matter who you worship. Doesn't matter who you go to church. If you're going to church or temple on a regular basis, or for that matter, a coven, go right ahead. Okay, get your support group around you. These are your chosen family, your chosen support works. Because the reality is, no man is an island unto himself, nor any woman, or for that matter, any dog, tree, cat, doesn't matter. Okay, we are all linked together, and it literally boils down to we all must work together in order to turn this world around. With that in mind, I'd love to hear your comments below. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share the daylights out of it, both as a video and verbally. Okay, because there's many people that don't have modern tech. It's time to work together. It's time to put the guns down, to put the arguments down, and really focus on the similarities. Really focus on the connections. But you've got to connect with you. That's where it has to start. Now, fortunately, I was lucky before my brother died. I was lucky. I got to that point. I finally got peace of mind. As in, I know why I'm here. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm aiming at. This doesn't mean I know everything. Lord knows I don't know everything. But it does mean I figured out where I'm heading. Now, I'm going to leave you until tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.